With us today is Antoinette Tuff, and boy, does that name stick with her after you hear her extraordinary story. Her story is so extraordinary, this past week, Lifetime Networks just aired a true life movie about her experience, the experience that happened on August 20th, 2013. Antoinette was working as a bookkeeper at the Ronald McNair Discovery Learning Center in Decatur, Georgia. I actually went to school at Emory, so I'm very familiar with that area. Antoinette, welcome to our show, and tell us what happened on that day.
It's a pleasure to be on your show today. It was an unbelievable, unrealistic day. If you had to get up in the morning and think of what you was going to do, that wouldn't have been what you would have chose.
It wouldn't be even in your thoughts of 1 million thoughts of what could possibly happen today. Let's hear what happened.
So on August 20, 2013, I walked into the elementary school. I was on my way to work that day, overwhelmed because my husband had just left me after 33 years. And so I was just trying to get my bearings and trying to get myself together, trying to figure out how I was going to pay bills, because when he left all this debt, no check. You know how that goes.
I know how that goes. I represent lots of people with husbands with no checks. And you have children, and one is disabled, I understand, right?
Yes, my son is multiple disabled, and so he had actually came home to visit me from school because I was in an unstable position. I had tried to commit suicide several times, and so my son came to kind of check on me to see how I was doing. I was just not knowing how to breathe without having my best friend. My husband wasn't just my husband, but he was my best friend too.
He was your life for 33 years. This is what you were looking at when you went to work. A husband who left, depression, you tried to commit suicide, not knowing how to pay your bills, even though you have a job as a bookkeeper at this school. What happened when you showed up at the school?
My principal comes in and asks me if I could fill in for the secretary for lunch. So I was trying to get myself together to go and relieve her, but I wind up getting a phone call from the bank. And they wanted $14,000 in 7 days. So then I'm actually sitting there crying, trying to get myself together. And I get up and walk out the door, and it's the teacher wanting me to help her with her paperwork. So me and the teacher goes up to the front office to relieve the secretary. The secretary goes out of one door, and the parent that she was helping goes out the other door. And then all of a sudden, we hear this unbelievable sound, because the parent let the gunman in, because I didn't keep him in.
So there was a gunman walked into this school, and the sound that you heard was what?
It was the gunman saying, "We're all going to die."
That was the first sound you heard. He walked into the office, or you heard him say that in the hallway?
No, he was in the office by then.
He was in the office. So a gunman walks into the office. He announces to the two people in this office, one of whom is you. Okay, yes. You are all going to die today. Was he brandishing a gun, or did he say he had a gun?
So what he did is, when he walked into the front office, he was saying those words. He had a book bag on his back, and he had a rifle bag in his hand, and then he had the gun already out, walking and pacing to and fro in front of us, telling us both that we're going to die today. This is not a joke. This is for real. And he was going to and fro, just talking to us and giving us demands.
So basically a crazy man walks in with a huge rifle, a bag of ammo, announces you're going to die. How many children are in this school at this moment?
Over 870 children, staff, and parents.
And this is what grades?
It's pre-K all the way up to 5th grade.
And what went through your mind? He says, this is it, you're going to die. What was the first thing that went through your mind?
I started calling on Jesus.
and he obviously answered because you're here. Okay? Now you said you did this in your mind, correct?
Right.
Okay, so after you had this sudden, prayer, Jesus, come help me, and this man is, showing a gun to you, and what does he say? What do you do?
I was watching him walking to and fro. He was giving me demands of what he wanted me to do. He wanted the teacher first to go and let everybody know that he was in the building. Then he was going to and fro. He went outside and shot in front of the office several times in the community, which was scary for me because there were grandparents and parents at home. We had parents and grandparents who didn't work. So that community was a community that a lot of the grandparents were actually caretakers of the children, of their grandchildren. And so you had a lot of elderly people at home during this time. And so it was scary for me because I'm like, he's out there shooting in the community. You got elderly people there. And so I didn't know exactly what that was going to wind up looking like, but afraid, but still talking to God, asking him what to do.
So let me just paint the picture so I understand and the viewers understand. The man walks in, he brandishes the gun, you're going to die, he runs out, he shoots outside through the doorway. How close is the office to where he was shooting?
So it's like a couple of feet. It's not far.
All right, so there was no opportunity for you to run away or anything?
Oh, I could have ran away.
You could have run away. How come you didn't run away when he left?
Because there was 870 kids in that school. If I would have left, he would have went on a rampage. So for me, it was important to make sure that everyone in that building went home, including the gunman.
So I understand that the gunman, in part of his pacing around and shooting, demanded that you call the police and demanded that you call the news so that the news can, take pictures or video him having a massacre. Could we have part of the 911 tape of you calling the police to let them know that there is a gunman in the school? Let's take a listen.
DeKalb Police, what's addressing your emergency?
Yes, ma'am. I'm on 2nd Avenue in the school, and the gentleman said, tell them to hold down. The police officer are coming, and he said he's going to start shooting, so tell them to back off.
Okay, one moment.
Do not let anybody in the building, including the police. Do not let anybody in the building, including the police.
Okay, stay on the line with me, man. Where are you?
I'm in the front office. Oh, he just went outside and started shooting.
Can you get somewhere safe?
Yeah, I got to go. No, he's going to see me running and call me back. Oh, hold on.
Put the phone down.
Bye.
All right, so I want you to know, I'm scared listening to this, and I'm not even there living it. The man walks in, you're going to die, he runs out 3 feet from your office, starts shooting at you don't know what. He then comes back, you're still on the phone with 911. They're listening to the speaker. You're now praying to God. When did it dawn on you that you have to have a conversation with this gunman? How did that dawn on you?
It just didn't dawn on me.
It didn't.
It just happened. I was just talking to God. I can't even tell you all. I mean, listening to the 911 tape brings back to my remembrance of what I said, because I don't even remember everything that I said. I don't know when. I didn't even know I was telling the man my business, first of all.
So
that was not the plan for the day. I was just actually talking to him and praying to God and asking God, what do I say to him? Because right now, every word that proceeds out of my mouth can be life or death. So I'm having this kind of conversation with God about what do I do? What do I say? How do I say it? I didn't know at the moment until after all this was over with that I had told him all my business.
So you told him your husband left, you're in debt, you have a disabled child, you almost wanted to commit suicide. You gave him your entire story as well. What was his reaction when you started telling him? Did you start having a conversation back and forth, or was it a one-way conversation of you just talking to him and him listening?
It was really a one-way conversation of me talking and him listening. He never really communicated when I asked him his name and all that. He never really allowed me to know that he was listening or that I was even getting across to him. Only thing he did was stick to his script of just telling me and giving me demands of what to do, call the 911, then call the news station and let them know that he's there. He never said to me until at the very end of what his name was, even though I asked him his name multiple times. He never really said that. So I don't know to tell you if it was something that I said that made him communicate or wind up telling me his name. I don't know what that connection was, but that I was just asking God what to say to him.
How long was this going on? Do you know? I mean, at the time, I guess it seemed like it happened in a millisecond.
We were in there for quite a while.
So after you told him your story, At what point did he give himself up? And tell me how that all came about.
He started, first of all, telling me his name. And then he came back and he called I think it was his mom that he called. He made a phone call and told them that it was him on the news and what was going on. Then he went back outside after he called them. I thought it was going to be over with. But after he did all that, he went back outside and started shooting again. But there were magazines. Right. And he was taking and loading up the magazines in front of me. So all I was hearing was click, 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 click. So it was like, oh my God, it brought another level of fear. So I didn't know exactly when it was. All he did was, in the midst of me talking to him, in the midst of me telling him my story, he put all of the ammunition out of his pockets because he had wound up loading up so he can go out and just do damage. So he wound up taking all of the ammunition and everything out of his pockets, all of the magazines that he had already loaded up in front of me. Then he put the gun over there on the table beside me on that desk, and his bottle of water and his phone, and he just laid on the floor prostrate before the Lord and just let him come and get him.
Do you recall if there was something that you said that triggered him to do all of this, or do you think it was just a culmination of everything? Or was there one specific thing or fact you told him that got into his head to say, this is wrong, I'm giving myself up?
I think it was more or less of me, of God, because I was screaming on the inside. I just wasn't screaming on the outside. You ain't here because I was screaming.
I could imagine.
I think it was a combination of me having an intimate relationship with God at that point. I think we were pain meeting pain. So we connected together because of the pain. And so with that pain, I think that we were able to save one another. Because it wasn't just me saving his life. He saved my life too. He saved my life in ways that can never be explained. I mean, I had tried to commit suicide a couple of days before that. So I wouldn't say that it was more or less it was one thing I said or a sentence that I said. I think it was a combination of me being in that relationship with God, being able to allow God to use me to be able to speak to that young man, to be able to let him know that at the end of the day that God loved him and so do I. I think it was a combination of all of that for him to be able to see that at the end of the day someone cares for me.
And I assume, and we'll get back into a second because I want to find out how the police came in and arrested him and everything, but just I assume, you were committing suicide because you felt helpless, you felt worthless, and here within days, you potentially saved 800 children from their death. What a turnaround in your life. How does that make you feel now when you look back? How did this whole experience affect you moving forward?
Well, the thing about it is that I take those moments that I have. I don't think God allows you to go through anything in life for nothing. I think everything has a purpose and a destiny to take you where you need to go. So I know that those moments that I was having at my lowest moments allowed me to be able to go in and write my book to the magnitude that I did. And that was why it was important for me for it to be called Prepared for a Purpose, because I think we're all prepared for a purpose in some kind of way.
Right.
And so we just don't know what that way is going to be. We don't know how God's going to call our name or call our number, and if we'll be ready for it when he does. So for me, what that incident has allowed me to be able to see that I always had a love for kids. I've always been that mommy.
Right.
So that's nothing new for me to be able to love that young man, because I didn't see a gunman. What I seen was a young man who was 20 years old, just as the same age as my own kids. He was in a position that he was calling out for help. So it becomes, who's going to hear my cry? Who's going to look outside of what you see on the outside, come into the inside and know that at the end of the day, I'm calling out for somebody to hear me. I'm calling out for help. So for me, what I do today now is I go back into that same school district where the gunman held me hostage. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I do a one-on-one mentoring program. And it's called Kids on the Move for Success Discovery STEAM Mentoring Program. And we affect kids in the elementary, because I believe that if we go back and get these children at a young age we can make a difference. And how do we do that? And so with that, with my nonprofit, I give out scholarships to kids from pre-K to graduates. We have my mentoring program that we do. And then I go back to businesses, schools, universities, and nonprofits and organizations and speak and allow people to know, what does that conversation in the crosshairs look like? What does it look like when I got to now look outside of me and show somebody compassion, confidence, and control in the midst of my own hurt?
Right.
And then also allow them to be able to see what prepared for a purpose looks like.
Now, just to end your particular story, and then I want to get back to you today. The police came in after he got in the prayer position, and what was that commotion like when the police came in?
It was another level of fear. I was already afraid because when they came in, you see it on TV when the SWAT team come in, right, and they,
you can imagine they burst in like yes, 20, 30 people with guns blazing.
And it's like they got guns, they got all this armor on their faces, and they coming in and just moving. And I mean, it was just another level of uproar. So for me, I was afraid even more so, even though I know I was being rescued and protected, it still didn't stop the level of fear. And then for me also, I looked at that young man that was laying on that floor prostrate before the Lord. I knew his life was going to change. I knew that what he knew before would no longer be his life. So I started feeling a little anxiety, even more so.
Right.
Afraid now of his life, because I knew his life was going to change. And was he going to be able to survive in the process of it?
Now he eventually got arrested. He's in jail for 20 years. He had psychological issues. You potentially saved 823 children, plus God knows how many police officers and first responders. You yourself saved your own life for all of this. You are now helping others, and you found a purpose in your life, and certainly the Lord does work in very, very mysterious ways. But let me ask you a question, because this is an immigration show, and there's lots of people who feel overwhelmed in their life. They feel helpless, especially with their immigration situation. What can you tell people that can help them try to overcome their anxieties and overcome their issues that they're facing?
So what I would say to them is that I know life doesn't always look the way we want it to. I know it doesn't always turn out the way we think it should be. But one thing I've learned in this process is that God gives us all a red carpet. And the red carpet starts when we're born. And so you go through things in your life and the carpet starts unfolding, and you'll get a little hiccup. Husband leave you, this going on, your kids acting up. So the red carpet stops, because now you got to kind of get in control of what's going on with your life. And then God says, he says, I see my child down there needing a little something. So he showers you with blessings. And so then your red carpet starts to unfold again. And then you come in another part in your life, and now you're an adult, and you want to be back a child because you realize you got all these bills and debt, and you don't know how you're going to pay them, because no one never really told you what that looks like to have a savings account or how to deal with bills or anything like that. So your red carpet stops a little bit. And then you're trying to figure that all out. And then God comes out and he shakes it up again for you. So for me, I'm in that red carpet part of my life where God is shaking it up a little bit. But one thing at the end of the day, I know with my businesses that I'm doing now, with my Kids on the Move for Success, as we're now going in to change lives and save souls for the kingdom of God, I know that at the end of the day, it's going to work out for their good. Because if it worked out for mine, I was an ordinary mom.
Right.
Sitting at that desk as a bookkeeper, working 3 jobs, and still not being able to make ends meet. Trying to rob Paul to pay Peter and Peter to pay Paul, and with cut-off notices everywhere, trying to figure out how was I going to put food on the table for my son. The night that the gunman came in, I was trying to figure out what we was going to eat for dinner. So I know that God can change it around for whoever's watching this show. So don't look at what you're seeing right now in your life. Just know that every moment is subject to change.
And every moment in life has a purpose for the next moment. You may not realize it at the time. And my belief, and I think you share this with me, that everybody has a purpose in life in this world. And if everybody's purpose is to make the world a little better in their own way, however they live their life. And if you leave this world a little better, you're leaving it a lot better. But if you leave it a little better than when you came here, you led a purposeful life. And you certainly discovered that under the barrel of a gun. And they made a Lifetime Network movie. Toni Braxton, Grammy Award winner. How did it feel to have Toni Braxton play you?
It was awesome because you're now looking at two hometown heroes. You know, Toni Braxton has a day named after her, and I have a day named after me in the state of Georgia, August the 25th. And so I go back on my day and just bless babies all over the world, nationally and international, with my scholarships and now with my mentoring program. So it was great for her to be able to play me in this Faith Under Fire movie, to be able to portray what my book was about, to give people a snippet of what Prepared for a Purpose looked like. And so I know that with that, people are going to be able to see what that looks like. And the reason why I know is because I'm now, since this movie has aired, my social media website went off the chart. I had to actually go in and upload it and put some more memory to it because it was blowing out. Because we're reaching that many people.
Because you've changed lives. You change lives.
Right.
And you lead a purposeful life.
Yes.
And Antoinette Tuff, and that's, by the way, a beautiful picture with you and the Obamas. If anybody lives up to their last name, I think it's you. And certainly Lifetime Networks made a movie, Faith Under Fire, about your life and that particular day, and starring not only Toni Braxton but Malik Yoba, Trevor Morgan, Yaya DaCosta, and you are living. I think it took you a while to figure out your purpose in life, but you are living a purposeful life, and congratulations to you. You saved 800 plus children and other human beings, and certainly you are a hero in anybody's book, and thank you for coming on our show.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be on here with you today. And I'll say to the audience, at the end of the day, no matter what it looks like in your life, everything is subject to change.
Amen. That's true. Thank you.